So India wants to be a developed nation by 2047.
Yeah.
Right? And we all immediately think, oh, wow, bullet trains, like huge tech hubs.
Like a shiny, bright new future.
Right, exactly. But what if becoming a developed nation actually requires something a lot deeper, more fundamental than just like, the economics and the cool technology? What if it's really about like nurturing people ethically? So that's kind of where we're going with this deep dive. Like, how can we use, ancient Indian ethical principles, things like Yama and Niyama, and even like scientific meditation? How can we use that in the education system to really like create this truly developed world that is ethical? And, we're going to go through all this based on the articles and the research that you sent over.
Yeah.
We really want to figure out how this kind of educational transformation can make a more developed, more ethical India, especially given like how much the Supreme Court is focusing on gender equality right now.
Right. Right. It's so interesting how we're kind of shifting the conversation like away from just the purely material economic progress. We're actually starting to talk about needing like a values-based foundation for any of this to really work. I was looking at the stuff you sent, and it's clear that economic growth and technology are definitely important, but like maybe they're not enough on their own. It makes you think about what's happening globally too.
For sure. We see, social unrest, climate issues, everyone's struggling with mental health. And it does feel like, honestly, like the world needs a bit of an ethics boost,
Totally. And it's interesting how education is kind of being looked at to fill that gap. It's not just about skills and knowledge anymore, right? We're talking about like building a moral compass. The Supreme Court in India actually, they've been emphasizing this. They want gender equality, women's rights woven into the school curriculum. It's a huge move, and it ties into this whole idea of neo-humanism.
Right, neo-humanism. It's it's like extending our circle of respect and empathy beyond just humans, right? Like it includes animals, plants, the whole environment, which is, given everything that's happening with the climate, that feels really important, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about the future, imagine generations of students growing up with this kind of education. They're not just going to have degrees, right? They'll be like morally strong. They'll have this spiritual awareness. They'll understand social and economic needs on a much deeper level. And they'll be the leaders of tomorrow, like in every field, law, government, business, media, driving change in an ethical way. It's a really exciting vision.
It is. And it sounds like, reading through all this, it seems like this concept of Yama and Niyama, like these ancient principles, are kind of like the missing piece of the puzzle, the ethical foundation that, is missing in a lot of educational approaches.
Yeah, exactly. So Yama is all about social ethics, how we interact with the world in an ethical way. And then you have Niyama, which is more about personal discipline, like our internal ethics. And the argument is these are universal, right? Anyone, anywhere trying to be a good citizen or responsible person can benefit from these.
Okay, so let's break it down. What exactly are the yamas?
All right, so the first yama is ahimsa. Most people translate it as nonviolence, but it's actually a lot more than that. It's about not causing suffering, to any living being. And that includes through our thoughts, our words, even our actions. Like think about how that applies online, right? Avoiding being mean or hurtful online. It's a huge principle, It makes you really mindful of how you impact everything around you.
Yeah, like even the smallest things, like a thought or a word. It makes you think about that ripple effect, doesn't it?
Right.
What about the next yama?
Okay, so the next one is satya, which basically means truthfulness, but with a really important caveat. The intention behind the truth has to be to help others. It's not about just blurting out facts, but like being truthful in a way that's kind, that's constructive.
Go for this with empathy. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
All right, so then we have asteya. That's basically non-stealing, but it's not just about physical stuff. It's also about our mental state, like being envious of what other people have. That can lead to unethical behavior. It's about respecting boundaries, respecting what others have, both the physical things, but also the intangible things.
So like respecting people's time, their energy. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Then we have a parigraha. Now, this one's interesting, especially in today's world. It's about non-acceptance of too much material comfort, like not getting caught up in consumerism, not always wanting more things. It encourages us to live more simply, more sustainably. And it really makes you think about our relationship with the planet, right? Our consumption habits.
Yeah, especially with, all the advertising and everything. It's a tough one, but a really important one. So what's the last yama?
Okay, the last yama is brahmacharya. And this one's often misinterpreted. But in this context, it's about focusing your energy, your intention on a higher purpose, aligning your mind with like the cosmic order. It's about using your energy wisely, avoiding distractions that pull you away from, your goals, your ethical commitments.
Okay, so focused intention on what really matters. Makes sense. So that's the yamas, our guide to social ethics. What about the niyamas now?
Yeah.
The personal discipline stuff.
Right. So starting with shaka, this one's about purity, but like purity of both body and mind. It means taking care of yourself physically, having healthy habits, but it's also about, your thoughts, your actions, like being kind, being disciplined in a way that supports your well-being. It's like creating a clean, healthy environment, both inside and out.
So how you treat yourself impacts how you treat the world. Interesting. Okay, what's the next niyama?
Santosha. It's about being content with, the results of your efforts. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have ambition, but it's about not being greedy, not being constantly dissatisfied. It's about being grateful for what you have, what you've achieved through honest effort. And, research actually shows that gratitude and contentment make people more resilient.
That's so important, right? Especially today when everyone's comparing themselves to others, always striving for more. It can really impact mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's tapa, which is about facing difficulties head on, like enduring hardship when you're trying to achieve something noble, something worthwhile. It's about resilience, perseverance, self-discipline, like, sticking to your ethical principles, even when it's tough.
So it's that grit, that determination to make a difference, both personally and for the world. Okay, what's the next one?
Svadhyaya, which is basically about learning and internalizing moral and spiritual teachings, like actively seeking out wisdom from different sources and making it a part of your life. It's not just about knowing stuff, but about living it.
Continuously learning and then putting that learning into practice.
Yeah.
Got it. What's the last niyama?
The last one is Ishvara Pranithana. This is about, cultivating humility, realizing that we're all interconnected, that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves, recognizing a higher order and acting with a sense of purpose that goes beyond just like our own ego.
So not just surrendering, but understanding our place in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
So that's 10 principles, the 5 yamas, the 5 niyamas. And the source material actually talks about sadvipras, people who naturally embody these principles. It's saying that these are the people who can really lead society in a good direction.
Yeah.
They have that ethical understanding built into them.
Yeah, that's right. And the material also highlights the importance of integrating scientific spiritual meditation into education. It's not just about these principles, it's about providing tools to actually cultivate them.
Right. And the cool thing is there's a lot of research backing this up, showing like real tangible benefits, especially if you start meditating early on. So what exactly does the research say? Like, what are the benefits?
Well, for one thing, meditation can improve focus, memory, and creativity. There have been studies with like fMRI scans showing that meditation calms the mind, and that actually enhances cognitive function. And then, there's research on stress and anxiety. Meditation has been shown to reduce those significantly, even reduce aggression. Imagine if like classrooms were calmer, if people were less stressed. Think about the impact that would have.
Yeah, a generation that's calmer, more focused, more resilient.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. Meditation can boost empathy and compassion, even social responsibility. By becoming more self-aware, you start understanding other people's emotions better. You feel more connected to your community. And there's research suggesting it even improves decision-making, moral judgment, probably because you're more in tune with yourself. You can regulate your emotions better.
It's not just feeling good, it's building the foundation for ethical behavior. So the source material talks about a structured meditation curriculum for schools. Like, what would that actually look like?
So the idea is to teach kids how to manage their emotions, how to understand them, emotional regulation skills. It would also focus on self-awareness, like being aware of your thoughts, your feelings, even your physical sensations. And really importantly, it would emphasize interconnectedness, helping kids understand their place in the community, in the world. So, there'd be guided meditations, mindfulness exercises for different age groups, and discussions that connect all of this to ethical decision-making.
Now, we talked about the Supreme Court and their focus on gender justice, right?
Yeah.
And, it seems like the source is saying that while putting laws about women's rights into the curriculum is great, it might not be enough on its own.
Right. True change needs to happen at a deeper level, starting from childhood. Laws are external guidelines, but what we're talking about here is an internal compass. Using Yama, Niyama, and meditation to cultivate respect, empathy, to understand that everyone has inherent dignity, regardless of their gender.
So basically, creating a society where things like gender-based violence and discrimination decrease, not just because it's against the law, but because people genuinely believe in equality and respect. They've internalized it.
Exactly. And, this isn't just an India thing, right? If we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this educational model could be relevant globally.
That's true. It's easy to think that, developed nations have it all figured out. But the truth is, everyone's struggling with things like mental health and even ethical decline. Material wealth and technology haven't solved everything.
For sure. And this approach, bringing together ethics, mindfulness, a sense of community, it could be a model for everyone, a model for real sustainable progress that goes beyond just the economy.
It really does seem like we need a big shift in how we think about education globally. Not just tweaking the existing system, but really rethinking what learning and development mean.
Absolutely. And, the source material is basically saying that bringing this ancient wisdom, the Yama and Niyama, together with modern science, with meditation, is the key to raising a new generation of leaders who are conscious, responsible, ethical, and ready to tackle the challenges of the world.
The ultimate goal is for India to be not just materially wealthy, but also a leader in ethical, social, and spiritual progress. It's this idea that a nation's true strength comes from its people, their character, their values.
Yeah, and the source ends with a call to action. Like, this isn't something to think about in the future. It's something we need to start doing now, to build a future that's just equitable, sustainable for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what would you say is like the main takeaway for our listener? With all this talk of Yama Niyama, meditation and education, what's the big idea?
Well, I think the big idea is that this integrated approach has the potential to be massively transformative, both for individuals and for society as a whole. It's about moving beyond just material development and embracing a more holistic view, one that includes ethical and spiritual growth.
It really is thought-provoking. And it makes you think, if these principles, these practices can have such a huge impact on a nation, what could they do for you personally? Regardless of what's happening on a larger scale, how could understanding Yama and Niyama, maybe even trying out some of these practices, how could that shape your life, your choices, your own personal development? It's definitely something worth exploring.